What's up, everyone? Welcome back. So this is going to be my review of The Last of Us Season 2 finale and the whole show as a whole. So once again, I thought episode 7 was a strong episode. It wasn't the best episode, and I don't think it was like the best finale that you could have had. I feel like they did a good enough job to sort of bring it to an end for this part of the story. And it basically pretty much, it's like the game. This happens in the game where you get to that point where Abby's in the theater at the very end and she shot Jesse in the head, and then Ellie comes out and it comes to an end at that point, and then you continue Abby's story in the game, and it looks like that's exactly what they're going to do here. In Season 3, we're going to follow Abby's story. I personally really like that. I might be the only one, but I love Abby's character. I think she's a great character. I love the fact in the story it sets you up to hate her, and you hate Abby's character, but then you get to see it from her perspective and her story, and I really like that in the game. It did really make me like Abby's character quite a bit. So I'm really looking forward to Abby's story. I also think that in the game, Abby's storyline has quite a lot of amazing moments. Some of the things that happen in Abby's story, I feel like sometimes are even better than what happens in Ellie's story. The thing is, though, is before I get too far ahead, I will say this Abby in the show is completely different to the Abby in the games. Abby in the games is a massive hench, muscly steroid girl, whereas in the show it's just she's not that at all. So I have no idea what they're gonna do with a lot of Abby's encounters. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see for Season 3 for that. But in this episode as a whole, I actually really enjoyed it. I really liked to see more of Jesse. I really enjoyed Jesse in this show. I thought he was a great actor, the guy who plays him, and I really liked his character. I like him in the games, but I probably like him even more here. I feel like we've got a bit more of Jesse, a bit more personality to him. We've got to spend a little bit more time with him. Well, maybe not more time, but it felt like we did, because we get to... In the games, you're just walking around from A to B. You're just looting different buildings and shit, and then you've got big action set pieces with Jesse, and then obviously it leads to the same sad ending that happens in the show where Jesse gets killed. So we don't really necessarily get more here, but I feel like as a character we got a little bit more of him personally, and I really liked him. I liked seeing Jesse on screen, and I liked the dynamic between Ellie and Jesse. Especially I like the scene where Ellie and Jesse are on that building and they're looking out. It's been destroyed. They're looking out to Seattle. They can hear Tommy's sniper going off in the distance. Jesse is telling Ellie that they need to go and basically help Tommy because he might be in danger. And Ellie's just like, nah, he'll be fine. I'm going to go down here and try and kill everyone. I really liked that scene in the show. It's very similar to how it is in the games. Pretty sure it's word for word, a lot of it anyway. And it just felt like that whole scene from the games. And I feel like they did it really well. Also, I will say this whole episode just had amazing shots. Some of the visuals and some of the set designs and just a lot of Seattle and what we got in this episode and some of the foreshadowing we got for like what's going to come, I thought was great. There is one moment where Ellie and Jesse are walking down the street and I think the camera's from behind them, and in the distance you can see like the two buildings that have been collapsed or blown up or whatever, and you can see a crane going between the two buildings. For people that haven't played the games, I'm not going to spoil it, but for people that have played the games, you know what I'm on about, and I'm looking forward to that part with Abby's story. And as soon as I seen it, I was like, no way, that's actually the crane. And I thought that was a really cool thing. Also, just some of the shots, like when Ellie and Jesse are talking about whether to go save Tommy or Ellie's going to go and just try and get to the aquarium, just that whole shot and the set design and everything, it just looks so good. So yeah, there was quite a lot in this episode that I really enjoyed just visually. And we get the whole scene with Ellie going off on the boat and she goes over to the aquarium, which I enjoyed watching, but it wasn't that good. I felt a little bit disappointed. I don't know, it didn't feel that epic to me. It just felt like, oh, Ellie's on her boat and then suddenly she gets washed up on a beach and gets taken away by the scars and hung up, and they're gonna like gut her. But then they don't, and they just leave her because they hear something going on in the village, which, again, is another foreshadowing to what's to come with Abby's storyline. And I thought that was really cool. But I thought this whole moment on the beach with the scars and Ellie was completely pointless. It just felt totally pointless. I did watch the inside look of the episode that they do after every episode of the show, and it gives you a bit more of insight as to the making of it and the choices behind certain writings and whatever. And they talk about that moment, and they say that originally in the game they were gonna have Ellie wash up on Scar Island and go through similar situations like that, but in the end they decided not to do it. So they decided it was a good opportunity to be able to show some of that in the show. And I get it, maybe they was excited to do that and put it in there, but it just felt completely pointless. I was like, what was the point of that? Because straight away, nothing happens. Like, nothing actually happens. Apart from hearing that there's something going on in the village, which I thought was cool because that is something to do with Abby's storyline. So it's cool to know that whilst Ellie's here on the island, Abby is also there on the island, and there's stuff going on at the same time. I like that aspect, but the actual whole thing of it just felt completely pointless. And another thing as well, this episode completely skipped so many sick moments that are in the game. I wish that they kind of showed a lot more of Ellie's journey through Seattle on the boat whilst she's going through the city, and it's all flooded in the city, and she's having to get the boat and go to different areas. It's filled with scars. She's having to go through buildings and kill loads of scars to be able to get through, and she's like locked in certain buildings. She has to find a way out. I feel like they could have done they could have just done one more episode of just all of that. That would have been so sick. One episode focused on Ellie going through Seattle on the boat, filled with all these scars. It's flooded and it's raining and it's just intense. There could have been one episode of just complete packed action, but they didn't. I feel like they completely missed it. And there was a really cool moment as well where Ellie falls off a balcony in the game with a clicker, and they fall into the river and they're like underwater. I'm sure she's trying to stab it and she's like fighting it underwater. That was a sick moment, and I just wish that they had it in the show, but they didn't. I get it, it's a TV adaptation, they can't have everything, but I do wish they had one episode dedicated to that whole sequence. Another thing as well, just while I'm on it, they completely missed one of the sickest things that's in the game. One of the best parts of the game is where you're playing as Ellie, and you go like you're crawling through really, really long grass. There's loads of wAFF, they've got dogs, you're in this village, and you've got to try and find your way through the village by killing everyone or being stealthy, and working your way all the way down through different parts of the village. Eventually you get to the bottom, and Jesse puts his, like, you're looking out to like this road, you see a hand come over your mouth, it's Jesse, pulls you into the shadows to hide you from the wAFF, and then you have this massive like car chase scene where you and Jesse are trying to get away in this car, but then all this infected starts running at you, jumping at the car, jumping through the windows, and you've got to shoot them all through the windows. That whole scene in the game, that whole action sequence, and then ending with that cutscene with Jesse and Ellie in the car was so good in the game. It was one of the best moments. I don't know why they didn't include that. They could have easily done that with Jesse. It would have been a sick thing for Ellie and Jesse to do in this show, but they didn't do it, and it's so annoying. So annoying. Anyway, Ellie finally, when she gets off Scar Island, that was pointless, goes to the aquarium. We get the whole confrontation with Owen and Mel. So I thought this in the show was great. I did enjoy it. They added some more stuff to it, which I thought made it kind of better, but then also I think the whole thing was worse than the games. So in the games, obviously, we have the same situation. You find Owen and Mel, and Ellie ends up killing Owen, and Mel then starts trying to kill you with a knife, and you have this fight, and it ends up where Ellie's just trying to defend herself, and she stabs Mel in the neck, and Mel falls to the floor, and then she finds out that Mel's pregnant. In the show, that doesn't happen. Ellie just shoots Owen, the bullet goes through his neck, and then through and hits Mel and skims her neck, which somehow kills her. I'm guessing that they're trying to make out as if like it's split her artery, and that's it, she's dying. In the game, it just was better. But what was great about this episode and what they added was the whole thing about Ellie having to cut the baby out of Mel's stomach. I really liked this added on top. I do think it was cool to have that. And I do think it would have been cool to have that in the game. We didn't have it in the game, but it was fine without it. But I do think that was a cool additional thing added onto it. So it was a change. I'm not 100% sure if I prefer it or not. I think the game definitely does it better, but I do like the whole baby getting pulled out thing. It was like, what the fuck? This is nuts. I will say as well, Bella Ramsey's performance in this scene I thought was great. I actually think Bella's done a great job in this show. There's been moments where I have really struggled to sort of like believe her as Ellie. And then there's been some moments where I feel like, okay, she feels a little bit more like Ellie. More so towards the last couple of episodes, she started to feel a bit more like Ellie when she's a lot more serious and a bit more darker. Unfortunately, Bella Ramsey just doesn't look like Ellie, and she looks too young, and it's just not, she's not believable because of how young she looks. And that's just unfortunate. But I do think Bella Ramsey's performance as Ellie, especially in some of these really like gripping moments where she's having to like cry and be desperate, and you know, she's in this real dire situations, I feel like Bella Ramsey was great. Just a lot of the show had Bella playing certain scenes as too stupid and a bit daft and silly and pulling faces. I don't know, it just, a lot of it didn't work, but I feel like the last few episodes it really did, and especially this moment where she's trying to figure out how to cut the baby out and she's realizing that Mel's pregnant. I thought Bella Ramsey did a great job of doing this. I really did enjoy watching her performance here. Then we have the whole scene back at the theater, and I thought that this was done really well. I loved this. It felt very, very similar to how it is all shot and done in this scene in the games, so I loved it. Word for word, a lot of the dialogue was very similar, and especially the whole scene with Jesse and Ellie where they run out the door, they can hear something happen. They run out the door, Jesse gets shot as soon as he runs out, falls to the ground. I was unsure if they were going to do it because I don't know. I just wasn't sure if they were going to completely follow it through, and they did. I'm glad they did, but I was sad to see the end of Jesse's character. And this whole thing where they finally see Abby, I thought was great. I really thought that this whole scene was done really well. The whole set looks amazing. It looked very similar to the games. Like everything looked very similar. Like all the angles, the shots, the positioning of the camera. It was just done very similar to the games, and I really appreciated that. I thought it was a great way to bring the episode to an end. And I imagine for people that haven't played the games, this would have been really shocking to see Jesse get killed. And then obviously just before that, Mel and Owen get killed, but then she's pregnant. I imagine that as someone who hasn't played the games to be really shocking and like, oh my God, like what is going on? Kaitlyn Denver's finally back as Abby, and I do think she came across very strong in that short moment. It did make me excited to see her. It made me excited to see the marks around her neck, which I'm not going to say what that is, but I did feel excited to see more of Kaitlyn Denver now as Abby. And then the show comes to an end where it goes back in time to day one, Seattle, and I was like, no way, we're actually going to see the stadium, and it looked amazing. The visual shot of the wAFF HQ in this stadium looked amazing. It looked better than I thought it would look. It looked so good. So yeah, so that's it. That's basically the episode, and now season 3, we're obviously going to go back and see Abby's story, and as I said before, I actually can't wait. I'm looking forward to seeing how Kaitlyn Denver portrays Abby. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do. They're going to have to change loads of different encounters because she's just not big and muscly. I don't know how they're going to do a lot of the things. They're going to obviously have to change a lot. And that's the thing I feel like in this show as a whole is being a bit of a letdown. Quite a bit of a letdown, actually. One of the main negative things for me is that there wasn't really much action with Ellie killing people. They kind of came away from that because obviously it wouldn't be believable having Bella Ramsey just kill everyone. And I totally understand why they probably chose to not go there so much, because it is Bella Ramsey and she looks too small and too young. You wouldn't believe it. But I do think that they could have introduced the bow to Bella Ramsey's character, Ellie's character, and had her be so skilled with it and with a gun that they could have set up some really cool action moments, like I said, where she's going through Seattle on the boat and she's going through all the different buildings with the scars and she's taking out all the wAFF, maybe through the villages before they get in the car with Jesse, and she's just so good with the bow and with a gun that you could have done it. Like she could have been jumping through buildings, hiding, going underneath beds, throwing bottles to distract them, shooting them in the back of the head, getting a bow and shooting loads of people. They could have done it and made it believable, but they didn't. And it's a bit annoying because I feel like this whole show has made Ellie someone who's just managing to get about without having that many encounters. Obviously, she's had quite a bit of encounters with the infected, and there has been some encounters with actual humans and people, and we have seen her kill some people, but I don't know, there wasn't really much action of Ellie killing people in this, and I do wish that they tried to make it work in some areas. They could have done it, but they didn't, and it is what it is. I get it. It's a different thing. It's a TV adaptation, and we wouldn't have probably believed it anyway. It was just a letdown for me, just watching the whole show. But yeah, I would say as a whole, the show's been really enjoyable for me. I've enjoyed watching it from start to finish. A lot of the episodes have been better than others, but I think I've given each episode something like an 8 or a 7 each time. And it probably was a bit too generous here and there because I am biased towards the show, to the story. So I was just personally just enjoying watching each episode. I look forward to it each week, and I sat there and I was able to separate my sort of views about the game and to not look at it like, oh no, but this needs to be like that and that needs to be like this. I kind of enjoyed just watching it play out, and I personally enjoyed this whole show. I've seen online there's a lot of hate towards it. A lot of people don't seem to like it. I don't necessarily know why, because it isn't a bad show. I think the performances all around have been great. Dina's been an absolute standout. I think Dina's been a great character. Seeing Pedro Pascal die as Joel was devastating once again, and I thought that was a great episode. I do think the show felt the loss of him. I did feel like when we got the flashback of in episode 6, was it? It did make me miss Pedro Pascal's presence within the show as Joel. We didn't see much of Tommy. I would have liked to see a bit more, maybe. But I guess in the game, you don't really see him for a while anyway. We will see more of Tommy in Season 3. Jessie, I thought, was a cool character. And Bella Ramsey, I enjoyed. Like, I did enjoy her. She isn't perfect. And there was definite moments I was like, she didn't portray certain scenes very well. Mainly just her messing around and being silly with Dina and just being a bit daft and not serious. I wanted the brutal, dark Ellie all the way through this, and I think the show's probably tried to avoid making her like that to try and make her more likable. But I think sometimes it probably made her worse by making her a bit too and a bit too daft and a bit thick and dumb, and made Dina almost like the clever one, the smart one, and Ellie's just like a bit of an idiot. I do think they did fuck up a few times with stuff like that, some of the writing for Ellie. The set designs all the way through the season were incredible. I thought the set designs were so good, amazing. The visuals of the city of Seattle, seeing it all overgrown and just the streets and how dense it is. I really loved certain moments that they created that's directly from the games, like in episode 7 where Jessie and Ellie go back to where Jessie's been staying in the bookshop. I was thinking, I wonder if they're going to have the little children's play area with the mushrooms, and they did. There were so many Easter eggs thrown in there throughout the whole show. Some scenes that were like taken directly from the games, like some of the settings, some of the wall murals of the Prophet with the scars, some really cool insights to different characters, like some of the scars when Isaac was having that interrogation scene. Stuff like that was really cool. Having the scene with Eugene and things that we never seen in the game that were included here. I really do appreciate stuff like that when they're just including stuff that we know is from the game, but we never really got to see much of it. There was quite a bit of that still in this show, and I really did like that as well. We did get quite a lot of infected throughout the season, but I do think that we never really got enough of clickers. Like, it feels like we had not that many interactions with clickers. It wasn't something that I was that bothered about, but when I'm thinking back about it, I was like, I don't know. I feel like we could have had some really cool moments, like the one I said where Ellie falls off the balcony and the clicker's chasing her, and she's like, falls off this balcony into the river, and she has this whole interaction of trying to fight a clicker underwater. Like, that was sick. I wish that they did that whole scene in the game, but put it in the show. It was just such a cool scene. And yeah, they obviously skipped loads. They skipped absolutely shitloads too. I don't know why they made it 7 episodes, because there's so much that's still in the game that they could have done, but they didn't. So it is a bit frustrating, but I understand as a TV adaptation, they can't do everything. So if I look back at all of my ratings for each episode, I think I gave pretty much all of them an 8 and then a couple of 7. I do think I was a little bit generous with maybe 1 or 2, but it was just because I really enjoyed the show as a whole. But I think for me, if I was to give the show a rating for season 2, I would give it an 8 out of 10. So that's it. Last of Us season 2 is finished. We're probably going to have to wait another 2 years now to see Abby's storyline. I personally am really looking forward to it, but I wonder how many people are going to tune in for it. I think the viewership's still great. I think it dropped off since the premiere of season 2. But I think they've still got quite a lot of viewers. So, yeah, who knows? Let's see how many people come back and watch it for season 3 now that, like, Pedro Pascal's not in it. Now that people know they're going to be focusing on Abby, this character that I imagine people hate. Most people will hate her, but they don't really know what her storyline is yet. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It's annoying we're going to have to wait 2 years for it. But that's it for my review, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Drop me a like if you did. Let me know down in the comments. Did you enjoy The Last of Us Season 2? Or was it just me? Am I too biased? Is that why I'm enjoying it too much? Maybe I am. Maybe I just enjoy things a little bit too much. But that's just how it is. Also, if you are new here, hit that subscribe. That'd be amazing. Thanks again, guys. And I'll see you all on the next one.